Hello, welcome back to the Peak Financial Planning YouTube channel. This today is going to be the first of a 5-part series on investments as a broad general topic and how to consider them, etc. You'll be happy to know that I've recorded it twice, and both times the audio didn't go through, but I've made the video significantly shorter each time, which is better for you, the viewer. So hopefully I can do that again with this recording. So today I'm going to actually start at the end, which is over 5 weeks, I'll be doing a short video about each of these topics. But today we're going to begin with things to consider. The reason is because I've been reading the book, The Millionaire Next Door, and one of the common binding traits among people who achieve millionaire status is that they are slow and deliberate in making their investment decisions because they demand of themselves that they learn, educate, and empower themselves to understand all the things to consider before making an investment decision. They know that they have to understand at the beginning how their future outcomes will be affected. So today we're going to be going through things to consider as you decide to invest. Really, there are more items than this, but we're going to focus on 4 key areas. The first is access. When will you need the underlying monies that you're going to be investing? People invest with needing an exit strategy in the future. The reason to invest is that you want to grow your initial investment monies so that it becomes more money, so you can make bigger purchases or use that money for future needs. So access is a key understanding within that. We have to understand, how do we get that money? The second is tax implications. So how will the growth of that vehicle or investment be taxed? And taxes will eat at the growth of your investment. What you get out of it at the end will be eaten into by taxes. The government always gets its hands on it. So we have to understand the future implications of that. Next is, what are the associated costs between different investment vehicles? We want to understand the cost. We want to understand the reward so that we can make a thoughtful decision about it. And then last but not least, what are the features? So what are the actual pros and cons of the investment vehicle? And how do you cross-compare investments of different types between each other? Start with access. Access, there's a professional term that's referred to as liquidity. And a liquid investment is an investment that is easy to access the underlying monies. What I mean by that is, cash is a great example. You put money into a bank account, the bank might pay you some interest, but it's really easy for you to access that cash. You can write a check, you can take the money out, you can do a direct deposit, you can Venmo it, whatever. It's super, super frictionless and easy. That money is yours at all times. The trade-off is that you don't get a high rate of return because it's so accessible. Another good example of liquid money or liquid investment is stocks and bonds. There is a huge marketplace for stocks and bonds, meaning there's a lot of ready and willing buyers who will take your stock, bond, or ETF off your hands so that they can get their own hands on it. And as such, it's a pretty liquid investment. You can get your money out pretty quickly should you need to make a purchase with that money. Now, there are other trade-offs, but right now we're just talking about liquidity. Examples of illiquid investments. Illiquid investments are investments where it's difficult to access the initial or underlying monies. And a great example of this is rental real estate, or real estate in general. Real estate has a lot more friction when you want to sell a property and get the money out in order to access it. Typically, you're going to have 30 to 60-day contingency or escrow periods where even once you do find a ready and willing buyer, you can't just get your money out till that period has passed. In addition, not all times of the year or not all years in your life will there be a good, ready, willing supply of buyers who will take that property off your hand. And that means that even if your house, let's say, is valued at $1 million, you might not be able to get that $1 million out tomorrow or even the next day or even a month from then. It might take you some time. So that is not a liquid form of investment. You cannot rely on that to make a purchasing decision tomorrow. The second example is a private business. My wife and I own a CrossFit gym. Gyms do not have a ready, willing, able supply of buyers. And so even if I thought my gym was worth $1 million, I couldn't sell that gym. Or even if I had invested $1 million into that gym, I couldn't sell that gym and extract the $1 million that I thought I had in it. Not a liquid investment. All right, number 2, tax implications. I'm going to keep this fairly simple by just saying it's damn complicated. And the purpose of showing this slide is just to show there's a lot of different tax brackets. There's many different ways to get taxed. There's many different nuances that determine how you'll get taxed or when or why. The second slide also shows, complexities like, will you get taxed now? Will you get taxed later? These are all really important considerations when you lock money into an investment. and want to understand how much you'll actually be able to get out of that investment later when you off ramp your money from that investment. So when you sell your house, how much will you actually get if your house is worth $1 million? Well, there's going to be tax consequences. Same thing if you have an IRA or a brokerage account. When you sell stocks in a brokerage account or in an IRA, what do you actually get back to your hands? You need to understand the taxes. Moving on, each of these investments is going to have fees associated with them. And again, I'm only going to show two among the vast universe of possible investments, and not even going to show all of the fees associated, but I just wanted to show a couple examples. With rental real estate, which happens to be a sexy investment vehicle in my demographic, which is millennials, I have this conversation all the time. There are tons of hidden costs and fees associated with that are not obvious. They're not a reason not to invest in rental real estate, but they are a reason to consider why someone would invest in real estate. It's not the case that it's always appropriate to invest in real estate just because it's sexy or because people have done it in the past. You have to understand why those successful people have chosen to do it. And understanding the fees is a big part of that. When it comes to rental real estate, you're going to have property taxes, turnover costs, which are the cost between having tenants in the building or the cost to fix up a unit when your tenant moves out and a new one is about to move in. You're going to have day-to-day maintenance like plumbing blows up or a roof falls in or whatever. You're going to have brokerage fees if you want to transfer or sell the property or buy a new property or whatever. In different scenarios, you might have to pay a professional to help you with that transition. Then, because rental real estate has to be run like a business, you might have bookkeeping fees because it has to stay organized. And if you don't use a bookkeeper, you might pay hidden costs in the form of making mistakes by either not doing bookkeeping or doing it yourself. And then last but not least, you might have additional tax preparation costs because it's run like a business. And so your tax preparer will have to put extra time in order to complete your tax return. When it comes to a Roth IRA, just an example, you might have account management fees if you have a professional advisor or even if you use a service like Wealthfront or Betterment, the robo-advisors, there's going to be account management fees. If you have an employer-sponsored retirement plan, there's account management fees in there as well. You might have trading fees or expense ratios on your investments within that account. It's also possible sometimes to carry out an investment plan within a Roth IRA without fees, but just because it doesn't have fees doesn't necessarily mean it's not always obviously better than rental real estate or other investments. You have to compare them side by side and understand the purpose of the investment and the costs associated with them. And then last but not least on this list for today is features. And we'll just go through some examples of features because this is how you want to evaluate your investments. So rental real estate, there's pros and cons. Some of the pros are you get depreciation. You have capital appreciation, which is the growth of your money over time. You have rental income, which is present day income, potentially from renting the units out. And you might have inflation protection because properties typically will increase in value at a rate faster than the rate of inflation that erodes at your dollar value. But then there's cons. There's high barriers to entry. You have to have significant amounts of money for a down payment. You also have to have some cash in order to handle unforeseen emergencies that are related to the physical property. It's also labor intensive because if you only own one or two properties, maybe it's not cost effective to hire a management company. And in such a case, you'd have to do the work yourself, like doing leases and dealing with tenants and repairs and hiring contractors to fix things, whatever. It's also costly to maintain, as we saw from the last slide. And then last but not least, based on our first slide, it's less liquid than other things. It's not super liquid, so you can't get your money out easily. Again, not a reason not to do it. There's definitely a lot of reasons to do it. You just have to understand these things. And then with the Roth IRA, you've got its own set of pros and cons. Roth IRAs are taxed now, but never again. They're highly liquid, meaning it's mostly invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and ETFs. And as such, you can move your money pretty easily from those investments back to cash or from cash into those investments without a lot of friction. It's also highly diversifiable. You can invest among 5,000 or 10,000 different companies, investments, and different things within the Roth vehicle or the IRA vehicle, whereas with real estate, you simply can't. And then you have low barrier to entry. Many of these accounts have no minimum fee required or no minimum capital amount or investment amount required, no fees. You can just go online with the click of a button, open the account. All you need is a social security number and boom, you're getting started. The trade-off and cons is it's long-term money. And typically Roth IRAs will be locked up till you're 59 and a half with some exceptions. We're not going to go into the exceptions today. So if you're 30 and you put money into an IRA, it's going to be locked up. So you're 59 and a half most cases. You also can't take current income in most cases because that money's locked up and there's a penalty to take money out, even if you do get dividends from the investments in that account. It's going to cost you to take it out. And then I've seen this plenty of times in my work as an advisor and a planner. There are specific rules to follow. And if you don't know the rules and you don't play by the rules, you're going to get penalized and potentially ruin all the good work you did by saving and accumulating money into that vehicle and maybe even making good investment decisions if you simply don't know the rules and follow them. In conclusion, the summary here is, again, millionaire behaviors show us that we want to understand the considerations that go into making wise investment decisions. We want to do that in advance of putting money into something because you need to know what it's going to cost you, what you're going to get out of it, what are the rules, and you need to educate yourself on that. So I hope this video was helpful. My main goal was to illustrate the complexity, and if I can, encourage people not to rush to invest just because it's sexy or easy. Teach yourself, learn. If you have requests for specific shorter videos I can do on individual investment types, I'm happy to do them. You can submit them in the comments or email me. Otherwise, stay tuned for the other 4 parts of this investment series. And I appreciate your time and attention. Your future self will thank you for watching this video. Thank you so much.